lot of people have raised the question or the concern, is race relationships better today than in the past? Well, it's difficult to say because there are different indicators that you can use to measure race relationship. And it's not consistent across the country. In other words, race relationship in many of the urban centers like New York is much different from race relationships in parts of rural America. And other variables may have to do with political philosophies, religious belief, status, economics. All of these are factors that play a role to some extent in race relationship in the United States. But if we look at the 2019 FBI hate crime reports, and it's interesting that it's interesting and useful to use hate crime because hate crimes are prejudice motivated crimes. And you know, it's a very powerful word, prejudice. It means to prejudge. You're already determined the motivation of a person, the type of person, everything about that person before you even meet the person or the person has something to say, you prejudge. And the tragedy about prejudice and prejudging people is that it eliminates their right to be a person. It eliminates their humanity. Anyway, the FBI 2019 hate crime report, and it's about people who were targeted because of their being a member of a racial and ethnic group, a religious group, or social group, or sexual orientation, or even disability. And the FBI sort of followed this. Now, we know in the last 2 years there's been an increase in hate crimes against Asian Americans. Some of it stemming from blaming the coronavirus on China and Chinese. And there's been this general kinds of animosity. And also some of it is envy with the growing competition with the Chinese economy. So you can fairly safely guess that the 2019 and the 2020 hate crimes report showed an increase in the amount of hate crimes against Asian Americans. No surprise here. That doesn't make it right. Not at all. And it's amazing that this country can build hate crimes on misinformation, on lies, like blaming Asians and the Chinese for a virus, or even blaming them for a pandemic. Okay, you can. But what is interesting about the report is that, you know, you hear quite frequently people say, well, you know, things are better for African Americans and black folks in this country than before. But if you use one indicator, hate crimes, that's not the case. It's not the case. In fact, hate crimes, percentage-wise, over the 2019 report and 2020 report, grew at a faster rate, a higher rate, than hate crimes against Asian Americans. We're still the primary group that is the subject and the recipients of hate crimes. And that's amazing. That's the FBI report, and a lot of people would say that report undercounts the actual incidences of hate crimes because so many of those crimes go unreported. There's a lot going on. Why do we see the continuous increase in hate crimes against African Americans? Well, people speculate for a number of reasons. I would say that, you know, fundamentally, I agree with the critical theory report that fundamentally it's a racist history in a racist country. And there are those who are extremely upset with that idea that America is a racist nation, and even with a racist history. Well, you have to understand the psychology of identity, because people who identify, many white who's identified with America, that's the core of how they define themselves and who they see themselves as. The special group who develop freedom and who have freedom and whose system of government is above everyone else on the planet, which is not the case. That this country came out of a higher calling for democracy, for freedom. Well, that's not the case either. You know, United States history, it didn't want to pay taxes to England. And part of its growth and economy was built on the blacks of enslaved people. And it perpetuated a lie. All you have to do is just look around. My God. Slavery was a system that lasted, and it absolutely benefited this country. At the time of the Civil War, the place where the most millionaires lived was Mississippi. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand what was occurring economically in Mississippi: cotton and tobacco. And so most of the rich folks in the South made their living off slavery, and in return brought goods from the North that enhanced the rich folks in the North. But the underlying current was slavery. Enslaved people, free labor. And in order to do this, you know, they had to believe this illusion of superiority, white supremacy, black inferiority, and that they were better off in slavery than non-slavery. And it became the essence of the cornerstone of their belief system. And for us to go back today and say that, you know, this country has a big debt, this country was built on such an atrocity, for many whose identity is deeply rooted in the American Delusion, and I call it the American Delusion, it is troublesome. So, when you look at hate crimes and you see an increase in hate crimes in 2020, and probably we'll see even greater increase in 2021, you understand that this is a reaction to Black Lives Matter and a reaction to critical race theory that questions the delusions of folks in terms of America and its past. I hope you found this interesting and educational. Thanks for watching.